Hello and welcome to the Prodigy Finance Student Table. My name is Cyndi Satram. I'm the host of the show. Today I'm really excited. We'll be chatting to Alejandro and Rory. Both are Prodigy Finance customers. This episode is a strong focus on chatting to students from Latin American countries to hear about their study abroad journey. Alejandro is from Colombia and he has studied at ISADE, and Rory is Brazilian and he has studied at ESMT Berlin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation. I come from Colombia. I'm an engineer, and I decided to go to Barcelona to study in ESADE in 2017, almost 5 years now. No, yeah, 10 years almost. Yeah, it's been a while.
Thank you for having me here. Also a pleasure to talk with you. So my name is Rory, even though I have this English name. I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I moved to Germany in 2019 before Corona, before everything that happened in 2020. Yeah, and I'm already living here in Germany since then, and happy to be here and also contribute with our thoughts and our experience.
Great. So tell us about, what inspired you to study at a school in Europe? Why those particular countries and why those particular schools?
Well, for me, I went to a French school when I was young. So I had this international background from very young, and I always wanted to do that jump to decide and study abroad. And I did my university in Colombia, and there were a lot of opportunities to meet exchange students and also professors from all over the world. And that also gave me a good perspective of what was out there, and it was always on my mind. And the moment that I decided that I was going to do an MBA, it was I was always looking for Europe because there were a lot of options, not only in Spain but in other countries in Europe. There was a lot of variety, and sadly, in particular, what I like it the most was the international student perspective that they offered, and then also, well, it was Barcelona, so that was also a good option.
Yeah, from my side, actually, my background before actually I came to Germany, right, was really about actually finance and audit. So I was really driven by financial reasons, let's put it this way. But I think three factors really made me moving to Germany and attending my MBA here. The first one I think was definitely about the cost and benefit analysis between across, let's say, US or the European business schools. German business schools are actually pretty affordable, and that makes a difference. Secondly, I already had a global blueprint brand on my CV, so I didn't have the need to go to a US EV League university, to give me another stamp on my CV and then get in a really huge debt afterwards. So that was also another reason why I decided to come to Germany. Thirdly, and I think also pretty important, take into account the current scenario nowadays. Also, what was a little bit the environment back in 2019, 2020 is the visa situation, right? In Europe in general, you have more, let's say, friendly visa schemes, mainly for master, postdoc graduates after their coursework, versus the US, that back then was already starting to be a little bit more constrained, in a certain way, right? So I think these were the three reasons why I made my decision back then.
Great. Talking about the visa process, can both of you share with us what the process was like from, applying to those universities to actually securing your visa? What was that like?
Well, for me, it was kind of a very straightforward process. And in that way, I think that overall in Europe, the visa situation for students is quite easy. I just had to apply directly in the Spain consulate in Colombia once I got my acceptance letter from the school, and just attach a bunch of documents. But other than that, I had to wait. I think that it was 3 weeks before I got the visa. So it was very quick and easy. And once I had that, once I got to Spain, I just had to formalize it with the local government, and that was it. It was very, 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 very straightforward.
That sounds really smooth.
Yeah, well, I think that overall, as I was saying, for students, it's they kind of like have all the processes already in place, and once you have the university and once you have like the program and the acceptance and everything, it makes it very easy to just apply, and they have all the documents that you need to, and in that sense, the university also helps you a lot, trying to like go with you along the process of this is all the documentation that you need from our side. Uh, this is the documents that are going to be asked on your end. You need to gather all of this information, and then you just apply, and you will have it without any issue. So I think that it's very, very smooth.
What
Yeah.
about you, Rory?
Yeah, my situation was slightly different, right? I mean, like part of my family is Portuguese, so I do have like dual citizenship. I'm both like Brazilian and Portuguese, which makes, of course, like my life pretty easy. In Germany, basically, I just need to come and do like the registration of my home address here in Germany, and that's it. But overall, I think like that the whole process, like moving to Germany, actually was pretty straightforward, right? And the university, in that case, ESMT Berlin, also helped me quite a lot across the preliminary steps that anyone needs to take before coming to Germany, like requesting, you know, a local tax registration number, like a local like pension number as well, which is important because like many countries have like double agreements, right, between them, and you need to let know that like the social security in Germany that you're moving like to the country, and also they supported quite a lot also with like health insurance plans here and there, at least giving us like a broad understanding about what was like required to come to Germany, right? Because you need to be insured by like a public statutory health insurance plan here. But beyond that, I think I also have heard not really a bad experience from other colleagues who shared like the batch with me back like 2019, right? Their visa process were like quite straightforward. And also after the graduation, right, Germany allows you for 18 months. I don't know like the rule right now, but like the past was 18 months visa to seek for jobs. So you don't need necessarily to make like a huge like effort to switch like your visa. You still have like some steps to follow, of course, but it's not that like really hard to get like the visa afterwards once you are graduated. And of course, that is always like something that creates more comfort on other people, right? Yeah, and I guess like right now, also you can see that several German business schools mainly they are really trying to attract like global talents across the world due to the US visa situation. Yeah, and of course, like Berlin being like a multicultural, global, quite English speaking, depending of like the area that you're living, city, helps quite a lot you getting like used with the city and also living here like normally.
That is so interesting that you say that, because we are seeing that come through from students. More students, international students, are interested in exploring schools in Germany and France. And Prodigy Finance has actually just onboarded more schools for Germany and France for tuition and living expenses. Typically, we just used to fund tuition, but now we support tuition and living expenses. And Rory, I don't know if this was a requirement when you had applied, but in Germany, the government requires funds in a blocked account. It's a requirement from their side to kind of show that you have enough funds available for your big move. So now when you have a loan approved with us, we can send the living expenses part directly into your blocked account, and you kind of use that statement as part of the process as evidence that you have the funds available.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like my situation was different, right? Like I was saying before. So I didn't have like this requirement of having like a blocked account. So in that way, it was not required to follow like this situation. But like overall, the whole process from project finance worked like really well, like for me, right? I also applied for both tuition and living expense back then, and the whole process was like super smooth, between like project finance and like SMT Berlin. So really like didn't have like any issues, like any problems. But of course, like these requirements, or let's say lifting up the requirements of having like a blocked account in Germany, and it makes like everything easier, right? Because like so many local banks right now are requiring you to have like local registration of your home address in Germany before you even like open a bank account, right? Which of course takes some time because like a lot of process in Germany are manually done. So you need to go to like a local registration office to do so. And of course that delays like everything. But of course I didn't have like this experience itself. However, I can say that like the whole workflow actually worked pretty well back in 2019.
Let's talk about that financial aspect of studying abroad. And I think I'm really interested, particularly from you guys, from Latin American students. At which point do you go like, okay, hey, I need to think about the financial aspect? At which point do you go, let me apply for funding, or let me see how I'm going to go about covering the costs of my studies. How did that work for you guys?
Well, for me, it was always on the table. I was sure that if I wanted to go abroad, I needed some sort of funding to cover everything from the tuition and my life expenses. So from the start, when I started looking for programs, I always started also to looking of financial options. But initially, I just was looking in Colombia and was looking to the possibilities that I had over there. And it was kind of like a very not great scenario because most of the places that borrow you money, they didn't borrow you the amount of money that covered tuition uh, or to cover not even like 10% of everything. Like doing some math, I was like, oh, I need to like ask for everybody basically in Colombia to lend me like a little bit of money and then to cover everything. So when I was going to an MBA fair, I saw the Prodigy Finance stand and I asked the options, and I was very surprised that because they were just very straightforward, like, yeah, I mean, if you get accepted, we lend you the money. And I was like, oh, everything? And they were like, yeah, I mean, no problem. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Is it true? What's the catch? But then I look more into detail about it, and yeah, like it presented like a very good opportunity to be able to have the option of not worrying about it, and that pretty much sealed the decision of going with Prodigy.
Yeah, like from my side, I mean, it was actually pretty like similar like experience, right? I think like overall, like not only like LATAM, but also like in other emerging countries like South Asia, like Africa, you have always a few situations that are pretty common spread like over the board, right? High interest rates, usually like in or let's say home countries, right? And also devaluated foreign currency as well. So that means that like our purchasing power is like much lower, like in our home countries than here, like in Europe. So of course that was the main reason why I applied for a loan, because I was actually trying to protect my equity still like in Brazil. In other words, I didn't want to burn, let's say, my saving accounts right away, right? Because I already knew I was going to use part of that to pay like my living expense. Also, like in Europe, right? Because I didn't withdraw 100% of like living expense via product finance, but also use it like my savings account. And on the other hand, also like the product finance workflow requirements, as Alejandro was mentioning, right, was pretty like straightforward, transparent, and to be honest with you, also like quite fair compared like to our home countries or even like other benchmarks in like Germany or Spain, like in France. So these were like mainly like the reasons why I opt for the student loan as well.
Fantastic. We're so happy to be part of your journey. So what are you guys currently doing? So I know, Rory, you're still in Germany, and Alejandro, you mentioned that you're in France.
Well, I when I finished the MBA, I went back to working in technology in IT, and right now I'm an engagement manager for a consulting company in the US. But it's a remote company, so I have the chance chance to work from here in France.
So you work for a US-based company, but
Yeah,
work remotely from France. All right.
exactly.
And it sounds like you've adapted into, the culture already. And you mentioned that you're French speaking already.
That makes everything easier. And the main reason why I moved to France is because my wife got a job here and it's with a French company and everything. So we just moved here. But it makes it easier to know the language, and also having lived in Europe, it makes everything easier. And also, I mean, there are a lot of connections from the MBA that are all over Europe. So it's also nice to be able to visit them or have the option of gather with all of them at some point, and it's close and easy, which makes it very nice.
Was it quite hard for you to find work after graduating?
A little bit, but it was mostly because I graduated in 2019, just at the end of 2019, and everybody was like, "Oh, 2020 is going to be amazing. Don't worry, you're going to find a job quick." And well, 2020 happened, but in the end, I managed to find uh, something, and it has been very good uh, since then. No issues there.
Rory, what are you up to these days?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. So I'm currently like working at a local startup here based like in Berlin, in healthcare areas. So there's like a company that provides like AI solutions for mammography and screening programs. So it's a pretty like novel cause. Yeah, and I'm like the responsible for everything like in terms of finance and also people ops and transactions. So since actually I finished like my MBA degree, I made at the beginning a slight career change from like auditing to working as, like the manager responsible for accounting and financial reporting process in a food delivery company here in Berlin. And then after like a few years, I decided really like to focus more on finance management, which is basically what I'm doing right now, being like the finance manager in that like healthcare company.
Amazing. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences. It really sounds like for students from the LATAM region that there aren't many challenges for studying internationally, particularly at schools in Europe where tuition is low, living expenses is low. For our listeners today, thank you for joining us as well. If you found this episode useful, then please like it and also subscribe to our channel to stay up to date for more topics around study abroad. Until next time, take care.